Welcome to The Dark Story. Tells today. Story is very creepy and spine-chilling.
The Last Delivery. The clock struck 11:45 p.m. The winter night was colder than usual, and the streets were blanketed in a fog that made everything look surreal. Rohit, a 22-year-old pizza delivery boy, sat outside the pizzeria, staring at the clock on his phone. He sighed, his breath visible in the frosty air. He had been working since morning, and fatigue was weighing on him. Just as he was about to pack up and head home, his phone buzzed. It was his manager. "Rohit, one last order came in. You're the only one nearby. Can you do this for me?" Rohit hesitated but eventually agreed. The manager texted the address, Kalinagar, Bhoot Lane. Rohit frowned. He had heard stories about that area, whispers among the locals about strange disappearances and eerie happenings. Still, he dismissed it. Superstitions didn't pay bills. It's just a job, deliver the pizza and leave, he muttered to himself, starting his scooter. The journey. The streets grew narrower as he entered Kalinagar. The streetlights were sparse, their dim yellow glow barely cutting through the fog. The GPS instructed him to take a turn onto Bhoot Lane. As he entered the lane, a chill ran down his spine. The road was flanked by dense trees whose twisted branches formed a canopy overhead. Shadows moved unnaturally in the fog, and the silence was oppressive. Even the hum of his scooter felt muted. Finally, he arrived at the address, a sprawling, ancient mansion at the end of the lane. The mansion was in ruins, its once grand facade now overgrown with ivy and moss. A faint light flickered in one of the upper windows. The rest of the house was cloaked in darkness. Rohit parked his scooter and approached the gate. The rusted nameplate read Chandrapur Mansion. He hesitated, glancing back at the empty road behind him. For a moment, he considered leaving the pizza at the gate and leaving, but his professionalism and the fear of losing his job kept him moving forward. Rohit knocked on the heavy wooden door. The sound echoed unnaturally, as though the house itself were amplifying it. He waited, but there was no response. He knocked again, louder this time. Just as he raised his hand for a third knock, the door creaked open slowly. Standing in the doorway was an old woman. She was frail, her skin pale and paper-thin. Her hollow eyes locked onto his, and she smiled. A smile that didn't reach her eyes. "Come inside," she said softly, her voice raspy yet commanding. Rohit hesitated. His instincts screamed at him to turn back, but something about her gaze held him captive. "I can take the payment here, ma'am," he stammered, trying to sound polite. The woman tilted her head slightly, her smile widening unnaturally. "Come inside," she repeated. Against his better judgment, Rohit stepped inside. Inside the mansion. The air inside was thick and cold, carrying an unsettling metallic smell. The faint glow of a lantern lit the narrow hallway, casting long, distorted shadows. Dust and cobwebs covered every surface, and the wooden floor creaked under his weight. As he followed the old woman deeper into the house, he noticed the walls were lined with portraits. The figures in the paintings were peculiar. Each seemed to be staring directly at him, their eyes following his every move. One painting in particular caught his attention. It depicted a young man in a pizza delivery uniform. His stomach churned. The uniform looked exactly like his. The hall. The woman led him into a large hall. A long table stood in the center, covered with rusted tools and stained cloth. The faint light from the lantern barely illuminated the room, but Rohit could make out strange symbols scrawled on the walls. "Where's the payment, ma'am?" Rohit asked, his voice trembling. The woman turned to face him. Her face had changed. It was sharper, her eyes darker, and her smile more sinister. "Do you know fear?" she whispered. "You will." Suddenly, the door slammed shut behind him and the lantern flickered wildly. The temperature in the room dropped and Rohit could see his breath forming clouds in the icy air. The woman's body began to twist unnaturally, her bones cracking as she levitated off the ground. Her face contorted into a horrifying grin, revealing jagged teeth. "This house is hungry. It has claimed many before you, and now it will claim you," she hissed. The escape, Rohit bolted for the door, but it wouldn't budge. Desperate, he ran into a side room and locked the door behind him. The room was pitch dark, but as his eyes adjusted, he realized he wasn't alone. The floor was littered with bones, human bones. Scattered among them were uniforms identical to his, each stained with dark, dried blood. On the wall, his heart sank. There was a painting of him, wearing the exact uniform he had on and holding the same pizza bag. Beneath it, written in what looked like blood, were the words, "Welcome to the family." A loud knock echoed from the door, followed by the woman's guttural voice. "You can't hide from me. The house always wins." The final encounter. The door burst open, and the woman entered, her body now a grotesque shadow twisting and contorting. Rohit grabbed a chair and swung it at her, but it passed through her like smoke. The air grew heavier, and he felt icy fingers wrap around his neck. "Your time is up," she whispered. The aftermath. The next morning, locals found Rohit's scooter abandoned at the edge of the forest near the mansion. His phone and pizza bag were still on the seat, but there was no sign of him. For weeks, rumors spread. Some said the mansion was cursed, a place where lost souls were trapped for eternity. Others claimed to have seen a shadowy figure wandering near the mansion at night, this holding a pizza box. And if you pass by Kalinagar Bhoot Lane on a quiet night, you might hear the faint sound of a scooter engine, followed by a whisper, "Another delivery, completed."
Hear you, friends, like our horror stories. So please subscribe Dark Story Tales YouTube channel and press the bell icon for new story and new spine-chilling experience.